We're going to start today's session with a long-term colleague of mine from the industry, Raju Reddy, who has been both a CEO as well as investor. And he has particular perspective to bring to this conversation. And I'm very sure you will learn a lot from the conversation. So let's get started. Raju, welcome to the show.
Yeah, good morning, Shamana. Thank you. Glad to be here.
So Raju, I want to start in an area which you spent a lot of years of your life in, which is dramatically changing with the advent of AI, which is the services industry. So whether it is IT services or outsourced services, services seems to be poised for a major refurbishing with the advent of AI. How do you view this opportunity?
Yeah. Well, to begin with, I don't think we have seen a disruption, whether it is services or products, as big as what AI has been doing since the advent of internet, I would say, right? We've had many other technology shifts, whether it is cloud, mobile. Many of them have had a huge impact on the industry, but nothing like what internet has done, and likewise today with AI. And so I spend significant amount of my time now, investing in seed stage startups. Most of them are in the product space, but there are a few that are still in services. Increasingly, I think the sort of the borderline between what you would call a product offering versus a pure services model has been sort of shifting or even fading over the last 10 years, even before AI, right? And now with the advent of AI, I do see that I think there is a significant need for what you would call a human in the loop, kind of, the human in the loop services. And there are a bunch of sort of new age, companies that are coming into play. A few that I'm involved with directly, like Cognita. I don't know if you heard about that, or Critical River, that are purely, traditional services companies, but much more led with some sort of a core, IP based service offerings. But yeah, now once again, I think there's also a shift in how the products and services are sort of starting to overlap in many of these cases.
Yes, so I think your point is exactly right. We are seeing human-centric AI, which means human needs to be in the loop using that AI, and it's giving rise to a few different kinds of business models that are a bit of an evolution from where we were earlier. And one that is coming up a lot is, with software as a service and the whole cloud movement, we went to a do-it-yourself model. Companies are selling software products as, software as a service, but it's really products. And then you expect the clients, the B2B clients, to be doing whatever they want to do by themselves. But now with AI, this model is shifting a little bit to do it for me also. So human in the loop can go in two different directions. Either it's human in the loop in the client's shop, or it's human in the loop in the vendor's shop, where it is do it for me model. So there is whatever is the IP underneath, there is a human who's sitting there and using that IP and delivering the value as a do it for me model. Yeah. And in some cases, it's the human is sitting inside the customer's shop and using the product and delivering the value.
Yeah. I think the one segment of the services industry that is probably right in the middle of a huge transition is really the BPO industry, and that frankly I think most of us don't yet know how disruptive it's going to be just in terms of there are millions of people employed in the BPO industry today. So, it's arguable whether you need as many people now
Yes.
going forward. It's almost certain you don't need as many. But the question is, what fraction of that do you need in the future of BPO industry? Say 5 years from now, what does the BPO industry look like?
Yeah.
I think that's a fundamental question that I think many of these companies, in the BPO kind of loosely called KPO, that segment of the industry are trying to figure out. Yeah, but like anything, there are always newer opportunities, and so
But also
in
the
any discussion.
software development is getting hugely streamlined, right? The co-pilots are becoming extremely effective. So you don't need as many people on the software services side as well. And there are a lot of co-pilot products that are getting sold into that business.
Yeah.
So there's a whole market emerging out of efficiency in the software development ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about these companies that you mentioned as use cases and case studies of what you're investing in. Cognita and Critical River are two that you just mentioned. Could you talk to us about what these companies are doing and how these models are playing into their situations?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. These are more, services led companies, but purely on the product side too, and that are much more AI first kind of companies that I'm involved with, and some of that is on my is in public information. The companies that I'm on the board of called SciSpace, for example, that's much more in accelerating research. Think of it as a much more modern version of Google Scholar that is getting very, very solid traction. We started monetizing just in October of 23, and we're at about 5 times where we plan to be by end of 24, right? And it has well over 7 million, users today. And just in the last 28 days, we've added, a couple million new users to that. So this is, so I think the takeoff and the traction is very real when you have a product that the market is looking for. And I mean, I can go into each of these in more detail if necessary, but yeah. So SciSpace is a fantastic example of that.
So can you talk more about SciSpace, Raju? What is the audience? Is it researchers in universities, in academia? What is the audience?
Yes. Anybody who's doing research, publishing papers, or really analyzing research papers to make their decisions, right? So this could be in academia, certainly is a big part of it, but it could also be in the corporate world, like in the pharma healthcare sector and all of that, right? There are a lot of the research labs in the world outside of what you would call normally just universities.
Sure.
And so they're all the customers for SciSpace. And you can look it up, SCI Space. It's all one word. It's a company, started well before Gen AI, specifically ChatGPT, came into marketplace. More around ML is how they started building it. And, but they certainly got a great tailwind here with, Gen AI becoming more commonplace now, and with all the models becoming much richer. So they're able to deliver a much higher value, sort of research capabilities, both for publishing research papers, but also doing, deep research analysis on any topic that typically a research lab might be dealing with. Yeah.
Interesting. And you quoted some very big numbers in terms of customer addition. In 28 days, 2 million customers added.
2 million users.
Users, okay.
Out of that, a fraction of them are paying customers, but yeah.
How are people finding this? Is it all search engine optimization? People are just finding through word of mouth?
Yeah, it's been mostly that. That's the interesting thing, Ramana. I mean, we haven't even started spending any marketing dollars. And So it's been largely word of mouth and quite a bit on Twitter. I didn't know that, but I didn't know these scientists hang out on Twitter, but they do, or at least they, sort of get the feed from that, and So, but yeah, it's been largely word of mouth, and yeah, it's just been phenomenal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else have you invested in that is interesting? This is very interesting. What you just described is very interesting.
Well, there are a few other companies. There's one called Flam, which is again, this is all public information. So actually, Google used them for. It's basically in the advertising space. So it brings your print ads to life. So when you sort of take your camera and it's mixed reality, but again, there's a lot of AI within that. This is not necessarily Gen AI, but AI. And again, this is a company that's really caught on fire, just in terms of how it's sort of disrupting the advertising industry. Typically, print ads are sort of it's a dwindling market, but now just by taking your phone and pointing to the QR code, which is like a specific thing that's coded in there on the in a print ad, the video starts playing within that frame. So Samsung recently introduced a feature called Circle to Search along with Google, and so they used Flam for that, and several large sort of enterprises have been using that. This is the product came into market about a year ago, and the company is doing extremely well. And again, these are all young first-time entrepreneurs, whether it's iSpace or Flam. Now, one of the areas that I'm sort of spending more time now is looking at companies, not just at the application level, but really as more of these AI apps become, a big part of the economy in the tech industry. I believe on the infrastructure side, it's going to put a lot of, strain or demand thereby for, better performance, better reliability, security, and things like that. So there is a company that's kind of in stealth mode, called Akash X, started by a bunch of these sort of, tech wizards, I like to think of them, coming from the database world, that are building this. Essentially, all your LLMs, LLM queries, the underlying layer, it translates into a bunch of SQL queries. So how do you execute those SQL queries much faster and with a higher reliability is kind of what that's the problem that they're solving. But my point is, as a lot of founders, entrepreneurs are looking at how can I use AI for a certain kind of business problem or whatever. I personally think there are going to be a lot of opportunities at the infrastructure level, at the infrastructure layer, given the sort of demands that these AI apps are going to put on the infra.
We've had several discussions on AI-enabled drug discovery towards the end of last year, and we have covered AI-enabled drug discovery on our blog quite extensively. It's an area that I think is super exciting and super promising. Now, the conclusion that was coming out of those discussions was that for AI-enabled drug discovery, you need basically the platforms that are out there, like Atomwise, for example, are selling only to the large pharmas. So if you're a researcher at a university or or if you're trying to do a startup in drug discovery, you don't really have access to the infrastructure that you need to be able to develop your products. But I think DeepSeek changes a lot of that assumption, and DeepSeek is going to spawn a lot of infrastructure layer innovation.
Yeah.
I think somewhere the fusion between pure infrastructure layer as well as domain specific models, that combination is also going to create a platform layer that is going to be really interesting in terms of enabling a lot of innovation at those levels as well. So for example, if you combine a DeepSeek or comparable efficient model, train it in the pharmaceutical industry kind of data, and that's something that startups use to come up with new drugs based on their areas of expertise, that would be one of the ways to unlock drug discovery as a startup exercise as opposed to just happening inside of pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, yeah. No, actually, you bring up a great point. The way I think about that, Shramana, is, when we say researcher, right? Normally, we tend to think of somebody who's got a PhD degree, sitting in a lab, working on. So that may be, I don't know, 5 million people in the world or 10 million at the most. But, there are probably 100 million people who, are absolutely, have that capacity without necessarily a PhD, but more importantly, have that inquisitive mind on sort of, wanting to learn and, sort of explore specific topics. And that's really what these tools like SciSpace do, right? It now allows many more of these sort of inquisitive minds around the world to, essentially accomplish what a researcher in a lab might be able to do because of these sort of tools and all of that. Actually, as I was talking about it, I just remembered, several years ago, there was an X Prize competition for, I think this was after the Exxon, oil spill accident. Sort of, how do you clean up the, oil damage in the ocean and all of that? And so one of the top three, contestants, they didn't win the final prize, but they were one of the top three. Interestingly, it came from a tattoo parlor in Las Vegas, right? So these are not scientists, obviously, but they had that inquisitive mind. They had some knowledge of, I guess, how tattoos are removed or placed or whatever. So I'm just that's to me sort of a real example of what
where innovation comes from, and I think
exactly, and these are the tools that make that possible, right?
Yes. Yeah. So there is an incredibly exciting improvement in tools and infrastructure, and there's a lot of entrepreneurship going on and innovation going on in both of those, and especially the DeepSeek moment is driving efficiency into the system. That's number one. Number two, to me, that is really exciting is domain knowledge, right? There is a lot of domain knowledge in a lot of places. So if people can have access to infrastructure and don't need to be in a large company to have access to infrastructure, if they can have access to efficient infrastructure, they can apply their domain knowledge and start entrepreneurial ventures in a very scrappy, bootstrap manner. That is extremely exciting for me.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. So a lot of times when entrepreneurs come to me with their pitch on saying, "Oh, this AI, this saying AI," that I mean, that was okay. I would say maybe year or year and a half ago, but today it's like saying, well, I'm writing computer software, right? I mean, AI is such an integral part of it. So what really separates you from any other entrepreneur, having that understanding of the domain and, the business problem and if and how well you're solving that, right? So just saying I'm using AI to solve the problem is, no longer a meaningful differentiator.
Yeah. The other really interesting area where we started this conversation that I also find very promising is that there are a lot of services companies out there, and there's so much AI technology right now to make services efficient. You almost can productize your services. if you have if you have 100 clients that you're providing services to, you should be able to use AI to dramatically get margin out of those businesses.
Yeah.
Which is another interesting development for bootstrapped entrepreneurship in particular. And as you know, we support bootstrapped entrepreneurship very, very seriously. We have companies in the program right now that's in the area of, as you said, advertising, marketing, social media marketing kind of stuff. There is a lot going on in those areas where inserting AI into the models can really gain efficiency. And when you were doing your services company,
yes,
people considered services companies not really venture fundable until they reached very high levels of revenues, right? Your company, Persistent, Anand Deshpande, you guys raised venture capital, but it was much later in the game.
Yep, absolutely, yeah.
But I think
today, that was 20 years ago, but yeah.
20 years ago. But today, I think some of these services companies, because of this human in the loop, because of these ability to get so much more margin and so much more repeatability out of these ventures, some of these companies are going to become venture fundable.
Yeah. I think that's definitely happening. I mean, Cognita, it's public information. They just raised $15 million from Nexus and others. Yeah.
What does Cognita do? Could you discuss?
Cognita, I mean, it started as sort of an AI first MLOps company about 3 years ago. And this is all my ex-Air Atlantic guys. And some of them went on to become senior executives at Hitachi and all of that. And so they came together a little bit like the Mindtree team that came out of Wipro, and about 7 of them, I think 7 or 8 of them in Cognita that started about 3 years ago, and doing extremely well, again with exactly like what you said, sort of IP-led services. And they have a product called Zuno that they use, but they are fundamentally a services company. To deliver these solutions in the enterprise space. And
and if you look at, there are 2 companies that are on my radar. Of course, Palantir is a services company, fundamentally a services company, IP-led services companies. That is a great example of an incredibly highly valued company.
Yes.
A company that I don't know if you're monitoring it, called Machinify. That's been around for a little while.
I see. Okay.
They just merged with 2 other companies. It's like a bit of a roll-up. AI services, IP-led services in the healthcare space, health insurance space.
Okay, I'll look it up. I know from Mu Sigma, Fractal, there are a few like that that have reached good scale.
Machinify, the 3 company combined roll-up is $500 million ARR.
I see. Very nice.
So
they probably have gross margins, much higher than traditional service companies, right? Yeah. Because in the end, all of these, you can say IP-led and all that, but unless it reflects in your gross margins, it's not a sort of a proven model yet. But all of these, I mean, look at Palantir, very, very high gross margins.
The main objection to services companies from the venture capital world was 1, gross margin, and 2, repeatability. If you can crack those 2 nuts, then you have a venture fundable high scale company within the services model as well.
Yeah.
What else are you looking at, thinking about, interested in investing in terms of AI companies? What are you looking for? For example, if something come to you that you would like to invest in.
So for me, Shramana, it's pretty much all my investments have been at a very early seed stage, and many of them actually, it was even the first check that I wrote, right? That the founder raised. Over the last 3 years, earlier I used to do this as an individual angel, but over the last 3.5 years now, I do that with a couple of people that have great friends, and I love working with them. Great respect for Kanwal Rekhi, who you probably know about anyway. He's a legend in the Valley. And other person is B.V. Jagdish, who is also very well known. And then there's an operating partner, my name Rajan. So 4 of us have been investing in the name of what's called SVQ, Silicon Valley Quad. So we typically invest like $2 to $2.5 million, 2 to 3, I would say, 2 to 3 mil as a seed stage. And again, nothing has really changed, whether it is AI or whatever, in terms of sort of philosophy of how I look at startups that I invest in. It's always a bet on the people, the founder and his or her sort of leadership team, right? Now, clearly, you want to go after a market that's large enough. As I mentioned, if somebody comes to me with too much of sort of this AI, then I'm a bit more skeptical. This is not to say I won't invest in that, but if they talk to me more about sort of the business problems and one of the things I look for is sort of answer to two questions, right? Why you and why now? What is it about your background that gives you unique insight into understanding this problem?
Domain knowledge. Domain knowledge.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Premium.
Exactly. Yeah. So sometimes it's understanding the problem, and sometimes it may be maybe the problem is widely known, but you have a certain insight into addressing that problem that others won't, right? And that typically comes from having been that's why you see a lot of, very successful companies come out by, founders coming from a large company like Google or Oracle or, VMware or whatever, right? Because unless you're at one of those places, you are unlikely to have seen that problem, and I'm not saying it's a necessary condition, not at all, but that's one of the reasons why. So why you? That's part of it. The other is why now. So what's happening in the industry that makes, this the need for this problem so compelling, right? For instance, like when I talked about the AI, the infra required to support all these AI explosion, to me, I think that's very real. Now within that, of course, there are various layers of whether it is security, speed or whatever, performance and all of that, but or storage. So there you have, different entrepreneurs. So the philosophy of sort of how and why I invest in a startup has really not changed. But AI is, of course, almost like, as I said, just a integral part of any product idea people are working on. Yeah. And now it'll be interesting to see with the announcement yesterday of quantum computing by Microsoft.
Yes.
What that does, and when you combine quantum computing capabilities with AI, and it's mind-boggling.
Where we're going, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly.
Super.
Both good and bad, by the way. I mean, there is also the, even with AI, it's tough enough with, all the ways that it can harm the.
Yeah, I think both the combination of AI and quantum computing is a tremendous threat for cybersecurity as well.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Anything can be cracked, basically.
Yeah.
In the hands of the bad actors, anything can be cracked.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a very dangerous thing.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah.
Well, wonderful.